and Malcolm.
And what we just read. And jingle. Excellent. And very two really amazing passages today. Amos 4. It starts quite, is it quite George? You hear this, you cows of Bashan. He's talking about the women, right? Because he says,
I don't think he's being particularly complimentary.
No, right.
No, it's sort of not, yeah.
I did actually look that up.
Probably not the best way to start a sermon.
Well, apparently the cows of Bashan are quite famous, aren't they? They do appear some.
Do they?
They appear a couple more times in the Bible. I did Google it because I thought, are these really? Is he really saying this? But there's a reference to the cows of Bashan in Psalms and Ezekiel as being cows that are particularly well known for. I mean, particularly in livestock terms, not in his derogatory.
But in this derogatory term, it's, I mean, because they oppress the poor, they crush the needy, and they say to their husbands, bring something to drink.
Right.
Amazing. Thinking Father Jack in Father Ted.
Father Ted.
Drink.
Yes.
But I mean, it is, I mean, it is pretty much a message of judgment, what we just read today.
What's very interesting is each end of each paragraph he says, and you did not return to me. Because he says, I gave you something positive, like I gave you cleanliness of teeth, or
I think that's a negative. I gave you cleanness of teeth. I mean, in other words, I didn't give you anything to eat.
Okay. Right. That's interesting. Well, okay. Because cleanness of teeth, okay, it means you basically,
Yes. And then he withheld the rain.
Right.
Struck them with blight and mildew, sent them a pestilence, overthrew some of you, as like in Sodom and Gomorrah, and you did not return to me. And that's the constant theme. And it is actually quite interesting, sometimes, when bad stuff happens. I mean, it's very hard to say, God has directly sent that on us or on me, but whatever, when bad stuff happens for us or for the people among whom we are, it really is a call to turn back to God and just to say to God, we need you.
Right.
And yet here they weren't. They were sort of thinking, we can sort this out ourselves. We can, I don't know what they were doing, or they turned to other gods.
Right.
Or they didn't look at their lives and their lifestyle and say, is this causing this?
Is this passage famous for the kind of when bad things happen to you, turn to God? I mean, is that because it's very clear here, isn't it? It's like, bad things happen, so therefore you need to come back to God.
And this was also spoken to people who were very much under the covenant, the promise that God had given to Abraham and to Moses, where God had said, if you were faithful to me, things will go well. If you run away from me, if you disobey me, things will go badly. Right. I'm not quite sure that we're under that same sort of covenant or agreement now. Right. But at the same time, I still would say when bad things happen, it's about turning back, about going back to God and just saying, God, help, I'm out of my depth.
Right.
We need you.
But it's quite interesting what you just said about the old covenants with Abraham. But doesn't that take us nicely into the next reading? Because isn't that something about the new covenant? The way that he does talk about how each of us is now the temple of God, and this is sort of part of the new
absolutely. Although again here I suspect we need to be a little bit more careful with the temple. He does talk about each of us being the temple, right? But actually this is that American you all are the temple of God. Don't you know that you all, the church, is the temple of God? Right. People are the temple of God. And so when one party comes in and says we're of Apollo, and another party says we're of Paul, and another says we're of somebody else, they're dividing the temple. They're breaking open the temple. They're destroying.
It's a beautiful idea that a foundation is laid and then builders build on it, depending on what you build on it. Whether it's made of straw or something more solid like stone. When the test of fire comes to it, you end up seeing really how good your building was, and that's a really amazing idea.
And rather reassuring, if the work is burned, the builder will suffer loss, but the builder will be saved, but only as through fire.
Right.
It is.
Yeah, that's interesting, that phrase, because you think, the work is, but the builder will suffer loss, the builder will be saved. but only as through fire. So it's basically that the thing that kind of destroyed him was also the thing that saves him. I mean,
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I like that.
Right.
I like that. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Amazing.
And that great promise at the end, you know, again about this is all in this context of people wanting to be wise and actually being foolish, and Paul teaching with a spiritual wisdom.
Right.
And he says, you know, no, don't boast in your wisdom, don't boast in your leaders. But this lovely thing, all things are yours, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas,
Right.
all the world or life or death or the present or future, all belong to you. If you're in Christ, then actually all things belong to Christ, and we're already in Christ.
It's me. I love that line. So because the world, life or death, the present, the future, like everything is very interesting. And it's there's a bit of that idea of the wise fool thing, isn't it? I thought it's very interesting. The wisdom of this world is foolishness. Because there's always been that thing, isn't there, where the fool often, in the medieval courts, they'd have a fool, but actually the fool often spoke great wisdom.
And in particularly here in Russia,
Yes.
we have that tradition of the holy fool.
And in fact, funnily enough, St. Basil's, the picturesque church just outside, at the end of Red Square, outside the Kremlin, which is the one that's always going on the backdrops of any picture of Moscow, is actually dedicated to the holy fool.
Basil the Fool,
Basil the Fool.
who was in the court of Ivan the Terrible, I
That's
think.
right.
Yeah.
And actually, it was me. I've always seen that as
I think so,
iconic.
I don't know.
You know, you're right, because I think he was hanging around the walls of the Kremlin, sort of giving foolish proclamation, but within a lot of wisdom too. I think Ivan, and he was left there and kind of celebrated with this church. And I've always thought it's amazing. This amazing church has almost become an icon of a sort of stereotypical image of Russia, is actually a church dedicated to the Holy Fool.
Yeah,
And it's just amazing.
That's very rich. I could work on that one.
Yeah, it's great. Okay.
Lovely. Bless you. Have a wonderful day, and hope to see you tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Have a great Wednesday. On Wednesday? No, we're Thursday.
Thursday.
Gosh,
today.
Thursday. I'm a
today.
whole day behind. Bye. Wow.